Hello and welcome to Economic Forum, a program where we discuss various issues affecting our economy in Zimbabwe. There may be issues to do with agriculture, with mining, manufacturing, commerce and industry. We discuss them here. And today we would like to discuss tourism. My name is John Masugu. With regards to tourism, it is actually the number 3 foreign currency earner following agriculture and mining. And since we're in the festive season, how apt it is to have Mr. Givemore, a tourism expert who is going to be sharing with us what is happening in the tourism sector and how we can also be involved as Zimbabweans in our own tourism in the country. Welcome to Economic Forum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masuku. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Maybe the most interesting point, since I've already mentioned that it is the number 3 foreign currency earner, tell us about how it is managing to do all these things. Who is coming, who is bringing all this money? Is it from us Zimbabweans who no longer usually visit our rural homes only, or is it the outsiders?
Well, indeed, like you have said, tourism is the 3rd largest foreign currency earner for the country. In other countries, it's actually the number 1 foreign currency earner, but in Zimbabwe, we've got a strong agricultural sector, a strong mining sector, and obviously tourism is always battling for the 3rd position with manufacturing. And as of now, we are at the 3rd position, contributing 4.25% of the GDP. And I think we have gone to that position right now following, a very serious problem we faced due to COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sure we'll be talking about that. But our tourism, we're talking about foreign currency, and foreign currency is an injection into the economy coming through the foreign visitors that we have. So you were asking who is coming into Zimbabwe, where is that money coming from? We have our visitors coming from all corners of the world, and naturally the region generates the bulk of the visitors. So most of our visitors come from the African continent, but we also do have visitors coming from Europe, coming from the Americas, and coming from the Far East, the Asia Pacific region. They all do generate traffic for Zimbabwe.
And us Zimbabweans, where are we? Where do we stand in visiting these tourist attractions that we have?
Zimbabweans are partaking in tourism more increasingly now, especially following the 2-year period. We experienced a downturn in international tourism, and we are seeing more and more participation of Zimbabweans in tourism. And in terms of the value of domestic tourism, obviously we are distributing wealth within the country. So you find that over the years the thrust or the focus has been to measure the foreign currency inflows into the country. But with the current devolution thrust by government, we are now looking at how much money is circulating within the country on the basis of tourism, on the account of tourism. So as provinces are expected to be measuring their own provincial GDPs, we are soon going to be having also figures that will say, okay, fine, how much has been circulated within the country from Zimbabweans from one province into the other.
We're going to delve deeper into that, Mr. Chidzidzi. But right now, for all these people that you are mentioning, including the Zimbabweans who are now turning to tourism, why this interest among Zimbabweans to tour different areas, and also the increase of those who are coming outside the country?
Travel has always been something that is at the heart of the human being. I think I always tell people that travel started when the creation of human beings started. So people are always going to be traveling. And when people realize that through travel there is economic gains to be made, there are some economic activities that can be undertaken, you will find that a lot of people are taking to tourism. And in the case of Zimbabwe, like any other country, tourism promotion or the marketing of destinations as a country, as a region, as a town, there are so many ways of doing that. And I think when one looks at how do you attract people to visit a specific destination? There are strategies that can be employed. You have to create awareness of the destinations, what activities are there that people can undertake, what packages people can take. So as we were in the period that we don't want to talk about a lot, the COVID-19 period, there was a lot of realization that there is a lot that can be done in terms of tourism. We've seen new businesses coming up. We've seen people resorting to the digital world in terms of promoting tourism. And these are some of the issues that have now spared the travel, in the sense that as people were at home, locked down, or in the lockdown periods, people were reading, people were studying, they were getting information about different places, and now it is a question of translating what they were imagining, what they were reading to reality. And now you're seeing an upsurge in travel. Obviously, the period that we went through took a country like Zimbabwe, it took us back to the 1990s. We actually went back to the early 90s in terms of visitor traffic. And now we are struggling to get back to where we had reached as a country in 2019, because we had actually reached something like 2.5 million in terms of visitor arrivals. And when you look at it now, we are struggling to get to 1 million.
Mr. Givemore, who is a tourism expert, and today on Economic Forum, we are discussing tourism, which is number 3 in terms of earning foreign currency for the country, and also other possibilities that we have in order to grow it from that level. So join us in the second segment of Economic Forum. We are now in the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing tourism. Where does tourism stand, or where is it positioned within our National Development Strategy 1? Yes, Mr. Givemore, is it something that is well pronounced, and are we all on the same wavelength regarding tourism as it is described in NDS 1?
Yes, indeed. Tourism is regarded one of the priority sectors in NDS 1, and indeed all other economic blueprints that we have had. And talking specifically about the NDS 1, we've got the 14 pillars of the NDS 1, and tourism is talking to the natural resources and environmental conservation as one of the pillars that tourism is actively involved, the economic growth, and also the issue of image of the country and value addition. And one could actually say that tourism cuts across all those sectors. There is a vestige of tourism in any of those pillars, but it is more pronounced in the natural resources and environmental conservation. And in that regard, obviously, you are looking at how much are we contributing as a tourism sector in terms of foreign currency earnings, how much is being contributed in terms of employment creation, in terms of poverty alleviation, and all the cross-cutting issues of the involvement of the youth, the involvement of the women, or the other sections of the community that have hitherto not had access to economic activity. But when we're talking of value addition, for example, we talk of, let's go to the agricultural sector, we talk of the field to the table. Right, and in tourism, people will then talk about which table, not the table at home, the tourist table. We want to see our produce coming from the fields, getting to be consumed by our visitors and our tourists when they go to all these different places.
Let's talk about awareness of all these issues. People may be in different areas. Are they aware of what they are having, or is it only benefiting those who are coming from outside? do those who live around these tourist attractions, or who are coming up with different brews, or who are harvesting different items and so forth, are aware that they're actually sitting on gold as far as tourism is concerned?
Unfortunately, what happens with human beings is that people will know things that are far away from them more than what is closer to them. And in our regard, you find if you were just to ask people about what's within Zimbabwe, I'm sure a lot of people will fail on that one, but they can tell you all the states in the United States, they can tell you all the attractions that are in Australia and so on. And the other way around, when you go to Australia, people will probably know more about Zimbabwe than they know about what is within their country. That is probably natural because people want to think beyond then, because they take what they have for granted. And in most cases, they will also not realize what they have. And I think when we're talking about the COVID pandemic, when people were restricted to their localities, guess what? A lot of people started discovering that just behind their village, there is a set of waterfalls that they never used to talk about. But because they had to spend time around there, they are now talking about them. And I know in one locality in the southeastern Lowveld, there was a discovery of more than 14 rock art sites that tourist guides and villagers and so on did not even know about, but because people spend a lot of time within their locality, they've started climbing up the mountains, going to places within, and they discovered some of these places. And what we are saying now is it is time to unveil all these gems, all these unknown, and we encouraging people to do that
and monetize them.
And monetize them. That is now where we come into the economic forum, because we would derive economic benefit out of the resources that we have within our localities and involve everyone. Because one of the principles in NDS1 is leaving no one in no place behind. And through tourism, you can actually incorporate everyone, because the tourism dollar is $1 that spreads. If someone is traveling from Harare to Chiredzi to Gonarejo, they will be leaving money all the way, starting from the fuel they purchase, and then they go to the next, they are going to buy refreshments, they will get hungry along the way, they will eat, they will see souvenirs, they will find someone selling fruit, and so on. And the tourism dollar actually circulates a lot more than what other sectors of the economy would do in terms of distribution of wealth within the economy and the spreading of the tourist dollar.
From what you are saying, Mr. Tsitsi, it therefore means that there are so many opportunities in tourism with regards to where we are going to, especially when it comes to devolution. Because at times we may think that, we've been devolved and our area does not have this tourist attraction and so forth. Yet there are these places that you're mentioning. What are the opportunities there?
Right. When you look at tourism, first of all, we need to realize that tourism, those that study tourism or from the academia, is based on what we call the 5 A's of tourism, right? That is the attraction. And you've got your activities, you've got your accommodation, you've got your access, and you've got your amenities. Those are the 5 A's on which tourism is based. So all the 5 A's form an opportunity for someone. So it's either you've got an attraction, which you can then also monetize, or you are providing access to that attraction, or you are providing accommodation, or some activity. Just walking around and hiking in the mountains, in the Eastern Highlands, that's an activity. And all those are creating opportunities. The problem that we have had over the years is that our tourism has been defined by people who came here, the colonialists, I should say, if I can use that word. They came and defined that tourism happens in Victoria Falls, it happens in Hwange, and it happens in Kariba. And right now we are challenging people to say, no, that's not it. Tourism happens everywhere. And there is an adage that goes that where there's water, there's tourism, for example. So wherever there is a water body, we must be seeing people boating, fishing, and water skiing, and diving, and doing all sorts of activities. Because where there's water, there is tourism. And any attraction that is there can actually be, it's the narrative. What is it that you are saying about the place? when someone said World's View in Nyanga or World's View in Matobo, it's because probably that's the place they went before they went to the other places, because I know there are places that are more scenic and better looking than some of the places that we hype about. And this is where we challenge people to say, let's take advantage of the resources that we have within our communities, and in that way we won't leave anyone in any community behind. I, as a tourism expert, am very excited about the opportunity for each province to take care of what they have.
I'll stop you there. Many opportunities that we have from Mr. Givemore Chidzidzi, who is a tourism expert, that we should look beyond Great Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls, Hwange National Park, and so forth. There are so many opportunities that we have in our country in order to visit different places of interest. So join us in the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where we shall be looking mainly at domestic tourism, other issues that Mr. Chidzidzi has mentioned, but delving more into them. We are now in the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where we are discussing tourism in Zimbabwe with Mr. Givemore Chidzidzi, who is a tourism expert. And we had promised our viewers that in this segment, we are going to be looking at domestic tourism. Yes. What is it about domestic tourism that is attractive? What is it that we are showing people, about our domestic tourism? What is it that I can come from Nyanga and learn something from Matebeleland or from Masvingo and so forth? Because even in our own country, there are certain areas that we have not visited that we don't know about.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think over the years we've now been observing that people are moving away from this idea of each time you have got some time off, you go to your rural home or kumusha. People are beginning to venture to go to other places.
Not that they are abandoning it completely.
No, they don't have to abandon Kumusha. Kumusha, we always have to go. Because, guess what? Just going Kumusha makes you a tourist. You are a domestic tourist. Because by definition, tourism is actually about leaving your usual place of residence and going to another place for purposes of leisure, business, and health and other purposes. So by that definition, the moment you travel, the moment you leave your house, you are already a tourist. Even locally, now we say tourism or excursionism, those are just technical terms that are used in academia, but basically everyone is at one point or another a tourist. So when you start visiting your friends or your relatives, obviously you've got to start thinking about how do you get there. Are you mobile? Are you using your own transport, or are you going to be using public transport? And when you get there, obviously what is interesting. So people are challenged to say, okay, fine, I've got a visitor around here. What is in this neighborhood that I can show my friends? Where can we go and have a decent meal? What is it that we can show off? So if, coming to your question, if one now leaves Harare and goes to Mutare, you want to experience Mutare. There are things that you have heard about, the things that you know. And these are the opportunities now. Who is there to take you around? And our children have gone to school overseas, and they've got their friends coming to visit. What do they do? Where do they hang around? Where do they take them? So participation in domestic tourism, like I said, would come on two fronts. It's either you are participating as a tourist or you are participating as a service provider, right? You are participating by way of career, right? If you decide you want to pursue a career in tourism, you can then pursue a career in tourism. Where do you pitch yourself? Do you want to go into hospitality? Do you want to go into the travel arrangement or into the culinary? Right now, I think we have got a very good opportunity. Everyone is looking at traditional food, and we are excited about some of the programs that have been put in place, especially if I can mention our very own First Lady with the traditional cookout, which has challenged people in all corners of the country to bring out the food that they eat. And tourism is about packaging experiences, selling experiences. So when we are
while you are there,
opportunities,
selling experiences, you mentioned a very interesting point. because at the end of the day, you want to monetize, and we're talking to our youth and other age groups, so that these opportunities also bring them money. Tell us about some of the initiatives or the creativity that we are seeing out of all these things that is bringing money, especially to the youth.
Yeah, right now I can talk about the youth challenges that are there being spearheaded by different organizations. And then you go to some of the banks that are looking at the youth. They are giving them resources for being innovative. Our institutions of higher and tertiary education, they've got innovation hubs. So the youth are actually getting into that. But now my disappointment is they're all going digital, because everyone is thinking that innovation is about going digital. So creating an app and creating virtual, but innovation is really, when someone thought about bungee jumping, right? That was very innovative to say, okay, fine. People can experience just a jump here, but without going into the river. So let's do bungee jumping. You go to the Eastern Highlands, we've got your skywalk, you've got your zip lines. So there are so many activities and so many things that people can come up with and then commercialize or monetize them.
Lest I forget to ask one question that is always asked frequently, that tourism to the local Zimbabwean is very expensive when it comes to hotels, when it comes to the road network, bus fares, or even hiring cars and so forth. Very briefly, Mr. Chidzidzi, many people feel disappointed because of that.
Yes, yeah, I can understand that, because even myself, I find some of the services quite costly, and tourism gets pricey, but that is the reason why people need to sit down, think, plan, and say, okay, fine, what budget do I have? How do I stretch my dollar? And obviously, there are players in the tourism industry who are ready and willing to advise people how to work within the means that you have, the resources that you have, because there is an opportunity for everyone. And at times now, where you find a gap, this is where I challenge the youths now and those that want to enter the tourism industry to say, okay, fine, when we find that there's a challenge or a problem, someone must come up with a solution. So that is the innovation we are talking about. How do we come up with say, cheaper forms of accommodation?
We can go on and on, Mr. Chidzidzi, but this has been very insightful. We're talking tourism, domestic tourism, as well as attracting tourists from outside the country, and the innovation that is happening in tourism with regards to culinary arts, in regards to food, clothing, and so forth. We've come to the end of our program, Economic Forum, for today, where we had our guest, Mr. Givemore Chidzidzi, who would like to thank you very much. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on your screen, and you can also interact with us on the social media platforms that are also showing. So on behalf of the production crew, this is John Masugu wishing you happy viewing.